Hello again, folks. Welcome back to BSG Online 2. We now have our final run of the marathon, which is going to be the amazing ghostkumo and East Memories of Celceta.
Come on, Tiny Tim, you set me up.
It's true, it's true.
Hello, everybody. Thank you, my friend. Yo, what's up, everybody? Get the poggers in the chat. Hi, everybody. I'm ghostkumo. I'm delighted to be closing this little weekend marathon. So, from the bright, sunny outside morning of California. So yeah, I am ghostkumo, and as Tiny Tim and the game name below the description suggests, this is East Memories of Celceta. This is a remake of the fourth East game, which is a bit of a niche action RPG series, but it's one of my favorites. I always love doing runs of this game. I believe we met the incentive to do this run on hard mode instead of easy, so go ahead and get situated for that. I'll be trying to explain what I can with this game. I know it's not the most well-known game out there, but yeah. So, are we good to start?
Yep, you just count down when you're ready.
Alrighty, as soon as I say go. 3, 2, 1, and go. So as I mentioned, this is actually sort of canonically the fourth game in the East chronology. It's a very long-running action RPG series. Oh shoot, I forgot I set the voice acting to Japanese. Whatever, it's too late to change it. You get all the Japanese voice language memes. Anyway, so this is an action RPG. It was originally released for the PlayStation Vita, which is now a dead console, thanks Persona 4. And it was ported to PC with a bunch of quality of life upgrades and things that make it go really, really fast, such as the cutscene fast forward, which just makes cutscenes go brrrr. Anyways, the basic premise of this game, we play as this red-haired swordsman dude, and he has lost all of his memories, which is how he gets them back from touching these blue orbs. These blue orbs are actually very important because we're going to break the heck out of this game, and being able to access these orbs actually kind of soft unbreaks the game. I do need to equip this sword here immediately, but like I mentioned, this is an action RPG. If you played the recent Trials of Mana, I've basically been saying that Trials of Mana is basically an East ripoff, because they play very, very similar. There's a few neat little things with this game. It has a basic attack combat system, but it also, I get these skills every now and then that are unlocked every few levels. This is bad. Useless allies here. As is typical of action RPGs, AI allies are kind of useless. But they do so little damage, it doesn't really matter. But every few levels and certain points in the story, I get these skills that I can bind to the 4 face buttons. As soon as I started the game, I got a skill called Rising Slash on my red-haired character. His name is Adol, by the way. He's the most important character in this series. And the Rising Slash ability is his bread and butter skill. I'm going to be using it a lot to sort of just kind of chain together combos throughout. So I'm going to do a little skip here that involves loading up the cutscene viewer to kind of screw with my game's character position. And I messed it up. There we go. So it resets my secondary character, because I can freely switch between the two. Puts him just behind the gate there, and saves me from having to get a key. Which is a recurring thing with this game, just not having to get keys, or opening doors, ever. I need that for a little trick that I'm going to do later. But here's the first boss. It's a big rock golem, and he sucks, and nobody likes this boss. But this boss serves as a very neat little demonstration of how flash guarding and flash dodging work. Flash guarding in this game, if I guard an attack just before it hits me, I get a couple seconds of mini crits and I parry all the damage. And if I perfectly time a dodge, I get a little bit of bullet time, basically. I also take no damage. I can also do both at once, which is really nice. And I also have a finisher skill, which I tried to make it so that as soon as I do a flash guard, I would get a couple seconds of the mini crits with my super skill. which means that I can kill this boss before he goes into sort of his desperation phase, where he just starts dropping rocks from the ceiling. So that was actually a really good boss fight there. You're gonna hear the line Ori no Bandana a lot, and that's sort of a running meme in the Falcom speedrunning community. It just means my turn, so... I saw Stolderheim in chat not too long ago, so... I'm sure he appreciates that. Anyways, so these little monuments here are actually warp points. They're gonna be very useful throughout the run. Which, this is normally a 30-ish hour RPG, but we're gonna do it in under an hour because it's really broken. Also, if you haven't noticed, the item getting sound effect in this game sounds suspiciously like the one from Metroid. And this is actually intentional. So the very first Ys game was composed by the legendary Yuzo Koshiro of Streets of Rage fame. And he was playing Metroid, which came out like a year before the very first Ys game, and he said, wow, this jingle sounds very good at giving you, like, audible feedback on item getting. So we just kind of borrowed it, and they've just kind of used it for the last 33 years. Anyways, the story here is that now that we saved the miners, we're going to set off on an adventure to explore the relatively uncharted region of Celceta, which is where this game is set. That's why the word Celceta appears in the name. I've had my varying little nicknames for this game, because its title doesn't make a lot of sense if you're not familiar with this series. Like, Cheese, Memories of Velveeta, and East Calcutta. Anyway, so you're going to see me playing as the blue-haired dude a lot, and the reason I'm playing as him is his max roll speed is slightly faster than every other character in the game. There's 6 total characters, and we're going to be picking up 5. You're supposed to pick up 6, but very broken game. So, you have a moment to get a donation in here. It's just going to be a lot of movement.
Okay, well, I would like to remind everyone that we are raising funds for the Dutch Cancer Society. We're currently on 1,840 euros. Let's see if we can get to 2,000 by the end of the month.
Let's do it. Side note, I love the soundtrack of this game. It's actually one of my least favorite Ys soundtracks, but part of that has to do with the fact that the original Ys 4 soundtrack is one of the best in the series, which is saying something in a series that's kind of really well known for its music. But even as one of the weaker soundtracks, I still think this game is a pretty good one. So pretty soon I'm going to be attempting the first major glitch of the run. It's going to save about 1.5 minutes to do, and really screw with the game's story progress. Back in the first dungeon, I picked up an item called a Rotor Droplet, which is sort of like a Phoenix Down, essentially. I'm going to do a quick safety save. Make sure I have the right file here. So I'm going to just let these crabs punch me, and Durin's going to die. So I get back on land, and my character died in water, which is the most important part of this trick, because water is set to a lower coordinate on the map, on the z-axis. And that's just going to cause me to go through the floor. So by getting across the river, come on, go away please. I need that. So I go across the river there, which skips the intended route to get here. This is meant to be a shortcut in reverse. And then that lets me get to this town, which if I try and talk to any NPC, it's not going to work. Normally when I get to this town, it immediately triggers like a stealth sequence. It's really out of place and not really a lot of fun to do. So In just circumventing the story progress, nothing had loaded in that town, except for the memory orb, which is kind of set to always be there. And accessing that memory orb sets me back to a proper story state. The kind of story with this town is, Adol actually has explored the region of Celceta before the events of the game, in which he lost all his memories. Excuse me. And he's been here before, so he has a flashback to when he came here and he met everyone in this town. But in the present time, he gets arrested because all the villagers started going missing around this time, right as he left, so they think that he has something to do with it. Of course, he actually has nothing to do with it, so now we need to figure out what the heck is going on and why there's these people in masks here. This whole section is just a bunch of advancing story triggers.
Do we have time for a quick donation?
We will in just a moment.
Yeah, just
I'll let you know. So real quick, I do need to sell the emerald that I picked up to buy a bunch of healing potions, because these are much more cost effective than buying armor. And if you're good enough, you shouldn't take too much damage anyways, but it just kind of is there as a safety option. So this next portion, I'm going to be doing a lot of movement, and I'm going to pick up another Rotor Droplet along the way. The most important thing is I actually got the village chief's daughter of this town here, Karna, into my party, and she's level 11, so as you see, my other characters are level 2. That 9 level difference is really big for the one fight that I need her. Alright, these guys are jerks. Go ahead, you can donation read now.
Yeah, no bother. We have received a €10 donation from Zelnu, who says, hearing that Trials of Mana is like Ys makes me want to pick it up. Well, thank you very
it's
much
worse.
for your donation.
I've been still telling people, if you like Trials of Mana, play Ys 8. It's a better game. And I like Trials. Oh no! I can see the I see the dreaded B word in chat.
We know it's coming. We know it's coming.
Yeah, getting a little sneak preview here. So I'm I believe the term is a spexophobe, which refers to an irrational fear of wasps. Which makes running games like this very awkward, because there's a ton of these wasps, including one that comes up very soon that the community affectionately refers to as the bee. I'm actually going to see too much of the bee until about the end of the run, but it does make it very annoying for me personally. Now to switch her skills up to X. Now the fight here is these 4 guards that have a ton of health, and I have level 2 allies, so it's kind of all on Karna here. I'm going to position myself to try and keep all 4 of them in her finisher tornado skill there, and try and get as many flash guards as I can. This is a point which I really do not want to die, otherwise I lose a ton of time. I also want to make sure my allies heal, because although allies cannot die in this game, thankfully, when they get down to 1 HP, they just become completely inert. Also, these guys just kind of run around like chickens with their heads cut off, and it's really funny. Alright, so that's the one fight Karna is useful for. I could circumvent getting her, except she has a useful overworld ability that I need to use, I think, twice in the run. Otherwise, I'd be completely soft-locked. Anyways, this is the Ancient Burrow, and I'm only going to do about half of this dungeon, but it also has one of the best themes in the game. I definitely recommend looking up the soundtrack after this game, but look up the Masque of Ys version, which is, not the Masque of Ys, is Dawn of Ys. There's Ys 4 Dawn of Ys and Ys 4 Masque of the Sun, which are 2 completely different video games, because they made Ys 4 twice, and then decided to remake it and make the old versions not canon. But check out the track Harlequin Temptation. It's got this like slap bass and this really weird chanting in the background. It's really cool. Yeah, so this game actually has quite an extensive history of speedrunning. For a long time, I was the only North American or even Western runner to run this game very frequently, back when it was on the Vita. This was because PS TVs later became extremely expensive, as it was a rather niche console. And so the early strats and routes of this game came about mostly because of me and a couple Japanese runners some of whom are still involved in the community, and I have to thank very much for the strats and route of this game. So real quick, I'm going to do a skip here. I'm going to try and pause buffer to make sure I'm at the correct position here, and I'm going to just completely cheese this next thing here. So if you're wondering why I'm switching my characters and viewing a cutscene, it's because switching my characters and repeatedly going into the cutscene viewer causes my characters to move back and forth, or move back just slightly, while I'm in a menu. And this is actually going to allow me to inch my characters just past the boss trigger here. So you're going to see this little cutscene of a wasp spawning, and the tower is just going to appear in the background. So when that cutscene stops going, it means I position myself just far enough. And I've just completely skipped that boss. This is actually pretty useful for a number of different boss fights, but I can't actually skip all of them because later things don't load properly if I set the story sequence in advance too early. So there's points where I'm going to actually be deliberately forcing a boss fight just because I need it to advance the story. So it's kind of like the opposite of skipping a boss fight. You're forcing a boss fight. Anyway, so I got everything I needed out of the Ancient Burrow, which is the Dwarf Bracelet, which I'm going to need to advance in the next dungeon. After that, it's only useful one other time in the run. Just say goodbye to these scrubs.
Let me know when you've got a moment.
Okay, I got a moment here.
Okay, fantastic. We have received a €5 donation from Shishi, who says, thanks for the beautiful marathon and good luck, ghostkumo, with your run.
Thank you so much. And thank you for your donation. So real quick here, I'm going to actually hit this trigger here, and then it's going to basically say that I can't go back to this forest on the left here. But since we don't really care about cutscene triggers anymore, and we can just skip them, I'm going to do exactly that. Alright, so now I've basically just bypassed the thing that's kind of locking me into the particular scenario that I was in. And I'm just going to skip ahead. So this whole area is kind of a Lost Woods type gimmick. If you go down the wrong path, it's just going to take you back to the beginning, which doesn't make any sense considering the trick to this place is you're supposed to always go downhill. Which is how you figure out the solution to the maze. So there's a sapling here, which if I activate that, it kind of sets the game to a proper story sequence, which I don't want. So instead, I'm going to use the memory cutscene trick one more time here. And this is going to end up saving about 1.5 minutes of just, like, cutscene nonsense. Because what this does is it prevents the next little scenario from properly starting. which is good because the 4th dungeon of the game, I've only been into 2 so far, if you've been keeping count. The 4th dungeon of the game is actually north of here, and I'm supposed to go through a whole bunch of story sequences where I get a new character, which we're not going to get, so you're going to see a character in cutscenes who shouldn't be there. And then an entire, like, dungeon and a half that I'm just not going to do. So I'm going to go over here, and then I'm going to use the dwarf bracelet. I'm going to save, because bad things can happen here if I'm not careful. I'm going to take a death here. Try not to game over. And then come up to over here, because the entrance to the 4th dungeon, which I'm not supposed to have access to for quite some time, is over this way. Okay, that worked. For the record, this game does have dual audio, which people were asking about for years, which is really silly to me because there's very little voice acting in this game, but I left it in Japanese because why not? I'm gonna do a little trick here. Ah, come on. There we go. So I don't actually have the ability to swim. That's supposed to be granted by an accessory, so instead I'm just gonna use a cutscene trick here. Come on. And what that does is it causes my character to fall into the water, and then they get just enough vertical height, I guess, that it causes them to sink underwater. So who needs to know how to swim? And that right there is the one thing that I need Karna for like, the rest of the game. This dungeon also has my second favorite dungeon theme of the game. Yeah, Tim, if you got any donations, I'm just, dungeoneering and trying not to fight encounters here.
Okay, no problem at all. Just like to remind everyone that we are the Benelux Speedrunner Gathering. We organise bi-monthly gatherings in the Benelux for speedrunners, and due to the situation surrounding COVID-19, we're currently doing our second BSG Online event, with streamers from both the Benelux and the rest of the world bringing you entertainment during the lockdown. We're also raising money for the Dutch Cancer Society, which is a nationwide organisation committed to fighting cancer while aiming for more cures and a higher quality of life for those already battling the disease. All of your donations will go towards the Dutch Cancer Society, and we are on 1,855 euros. Let's see if we can hit 2,000.
So real quick here, I'm actually using this trick once more. This is the last like major boss that I skip doing this trick, and it's also one of the worst. We affectionately call it Robo Centaur Jerkface. We have a much meaner name, but I like to keep things PG sometimes. Yeah, that fight sucks. Not much to say about it. So now we're at a level, we're at a scenario where I'm supposed to be in my level, like, 20s, and I'm level 8. So anything that hits me is going to two-shot me, so I need to keep moving. But yeah, here's the Thunder Tower that we keep seeing in that dream sequence that I decide to keep repeating on and on, as if it was some sort of nightmare. Yeah, the Centaur Fight was kinda... It was fun because it actually was one of the more skill-oriented fights in the game. But it also sucked because it was very easy to accidentally die some point in there. So for safety purposes, whoopsies. Oh, that's right, I just picked up money. I used to grab a gem in the previous dungeon, so my mental memory was like... My muscle memory was like, I have to sell something, and I'm like, wait, I don't have the thing to sell. But yeah, I just picked up the money. So I picked up a couple more potions for safety purposes. There's a boss later on in the run that can just absolutely drain your health. Anyways, in skipping every story sequence leading into the previous boss that we also skipped, this area that I'm supposed to be prevented from even being able to get here, but because all the story sequences have not properly loaded, the cutscene barrier that keeps me from advancing is just not there, so I can just skip up ahead to this hill. And welcome to Final Fantasy X. We have to dodge lightning. It's fun. So now we're getting our 4th party member. She's supposed to be the 5th, but we skipped the other guy, so he's just kind of a ghost looming in my party. Now, what I'm doing there is I have to activate these lightning rods for safety purposes, but I can actually progress around the terrain that kind of auto strikes me with lightning. And this is because lightning strikes on a 2.1 second global timer. And that 2.1 second global timer includes while the pause menu is open, as just kind of a quirk of this game. So I don't have to worry about that. And this ends up letting me skip this entire next dungeon. This is not even a glitch, as opposed to much of everything else in this game. This is just a developer oversight. Oops. Well, that's what getting struck with lightning looks like. Thankfully, I'm at the end here. Yeah. Anyway, so we picked up our 4th party member. Her name's Kalilica, and she's level 20-something. She's not actually useful for combat anymore. She used to be. But she is the 2nd strongest character that I'm going to get for my party, so it is useful to have her. But yeah, we just skipped an entire dungeon, just willy-nilly. And again, I'm level 8 at a point of the game where I should be almost level 30. So this is the point in the run where I kind of actually need to start catching up, in a way. Because there's several boss fights that just are not really skippable. So I can actually skip at going to this sapling here, but the next boss fight won't load correctly, so I'll have to go here. And this is the one time we, like, very faintly see one of the main villains of this game, which is sort of the dark possessed version of the god of this region. He's actually, in that cutscene, responsible for causing Adol to lose his memories. It's funny, because this game actually is one of the few in the series that properly focuses on Adol. He's the protagonist of the entire series, but not really given a lot of development. He was sort of meant to be a blank slate for players. And over time, they've slowly given him more and more, like, character. Oh, come on. Setting a shortcut there. But he's actually not in the party right now. This is mostly for convenience purposes. I want to keep him in my party as much as possible because he gets the third best weapon available to me in the speedrun. Anyways, this is our 6th and final party member. Her name is Frida, and she's cool. She has a giant axe, which is my favorite type of weapon. It's just the halberd, I believe is what they call it. She's also level 30, which means that because the player-controlled character does most of the damage, she's going to be very useful for the next little portion of the run. Anyway, I'm not even going to try to explain what the heck is happening, because a lot happens at once in the story. It's not a particularly deep story, or engaging, but it's okay. Gets the job done. She also has a really useful finisher here, so I'm gonna wait till he tries to knock me back. And then I'm gonna use my finisher while that happens. And that was actually a very good boss fight. Yeah. So all you need to know about this story sequence is the villagers of this area came across the Masque of the Sun, which is this game's powerful, magical, dark item thingy, or a MacGuffin, if you're familiar with filmmaking terminology. And so Adol had it before the events of the game, and when he was attacked, he lost it, so people thought he was dead, but he wasn't. The villagers here managed to come across it, and they've been protecting it ever since, but stupid Blondie over there, she has a number of nicknames in the community, but nobody particularly likes her, because she kind of is a problem with everything in this game. She kind of just tries to break it free, and the big bad of the game just swoops in and takes it. Yeah. Big bad tricks the local idiot into giving out MacGuffin. Sounds about right. So right there's actually like a bit of janky movement that I do, because Frida's overworld action, she can freeze these poison fissures in the ground. It's very, very not useful for most things. I think most things that the game would normally require it to be, but in this particular area, it's something I need her to do twice. But that one there, because there's an enemy nearby, it's prone to not letting me actually do it. But if I take sort of a bit of roundabout movement, there's this little window that I could kind of dash right into the fissure there, and it'll give me just enough time to freeze it over and progress. So this portion here is this portion of the gameplay here, I'm actually just setting up a warp point for a later trick. Fun fact, I believe this is the first game in which they ever gave Adol Kristen a voice, because he's normally a silent protagonist. He doesn't say much in the story of this game, but you do get dialogue options, at least, with him. He's apparently a very snarky guy. In the Japanese version, he's voiced by Yuki Kaji, who is kind of like one of the 2010s most like prolific shonen anime voice actors. So if he sounds familiar, congratulations, you're probably a weeb. So if you have a moment, I have a moment here for donations. I'm just doing some movement here.
Okay, thank you very much. We do indeed have another donation. We have
Nice.
15 euros from Killer Chair, who says, I suppose I can spare a little more for pushing to 2k. Let's make it happen.
Let's get that to 2k. We got about 20 minutes left of the run, give or take. Dang, it's not letting me do it. Alright, so this is the one puzzle in the entire game that I actually use my mouse. You can't see it. I mostly hide mouse with this game because I'm prone to leaving the cursor on the screen and it really distracts people. But yeah, it's just a weight puzzle. But yeah, let's get to 2k. Or, yeah, 2k. This is Rivy Roy. I'm not going to fight him just yet. I actually need to take a death here. Ah, that's bad luck. He ate me. And that actually warps me back to the tower, because the game is kind of set to a permanent state where death is like being struck by lightning, but since I did it on a boss fight, it means that this next fight that's supposed to happen in town here automatically loads because it's sort of treated as a boss fight. And I need to access this fight for, not for story reasons, but because the cutscene that ties to it gives me an extremely valuable item. Anyways, so Frida's not supposed to be in this cutscene, so she's just gonna stand in the back, just kind of standing still, doing nothing, while the big bads just kind of take over this town. I'm not even gonna try to explain everything that happens in this cutscene, because the turbo speed makes it kind of impossible. But yeah, the mayor of this town gives me the Golden Wing, and he lets me keep Kalilica in the party forever. So the Golden Wing lets me warp between any monuments from anywhere, as opposed to normally having to go to monuments of the same color. But we're gonna face the frog properly this time. But yeah, anytime you exit a boss fight, and then you enter a screen that has a boss fight, the boss fight will automatically trigger, regardless of whether it's supposed to. Yeah. And so this is one of the more luck-oriented fights in the game. Oh my god. Come on. You big jerk. Give her back. That's bad. Just spit her out already. I'm gonna have to take a death here. Go. Try that again. Yeah. This fight sucks. This fight completely and utterly sucks. There's a lot that depends on luck here. But the nice thing about this boss is that he can kind of be kept in a perpetual stun lock. At least when he hasn't swallowed a character. There we go. But yeah, with Hurricane Spin, I can kind of just keep him in a perpetual stun lock, which is kind of nice. I'm not chaining it together right now. There we go. There we go. That's what I want to see. So when an allied character learns a skill, my SP actually replenishes to full, which is kind of nice. And allows me to keep the stun lock going for quite a lot longer. There we go. That's one of the trickier fights of the run. The nice thing, at least with this game, is if you ever die, you can just retry again, assuming the game has actually advanced to a proper story state. So here's where I'm going to go to the warp point that I set up not long ago. And now I have the second accessory that I get in the game. There's like 6 required accessories in the normal story, and we only ever get 2 of them. And so now this is officially a Wario Land game, because we're just going to continually ram things with our elbows. Oops, that was not the correct thing to do there. If you menu this properly, it saves about a second. But I menued badly, so I ended up losing a couple seconds. And so, there's one more boss here. This is kind of just a space stick from nowhere kind of boss. He's actually really fun to fight because I can chain together simultaneous guards and flashes to get a lot of damage off on this guy. The problem is Frida's 48 SP skill that I'm using a lot here called Cactus Drive kind of stinks because it has a mind of its own and just loves to completely miss the boss. So, he goes into a desperation phase after he hits below half of his health. And this part of the fight really sucks. Because he likes to do this stampeding attack when he gets to below a third of his health. And I'm gonna just heal, just in case. That was not the correct angle to go. Come on, buddy. And I'll use my finisher to do... I think it should kill here. Close enough. Okay. I really want to get him before he finishes that animation. Alright, so that's the second to last real boss fight that we're gonna do. Because this game's about to get even more broken than it ever has been. So in the chase to get the Masque of the Sun back, we need to head to the ancient capital of this region. Once we head there, the bad guys attack us. And they enter the realm of Iris, I believe is... Yeah, the name is Iris. And it is the location of all the historical records. So they basically just want to rewrite history to suit the bad guy's needs. He has his whole backstory and everything. And because that locks us out of the final dungeon, we need to go get the two pieces of the reverse MacGuffin, which is the Masque of the Moon. And then we need to get that repaired. Naturally, none of this is going to happen in the speedrun, because we can just skip most of everything that I just said. So if that sounded tedious, and it kind of is, although it is fun, we're not going to be doing any of that. Also, if you get tired of all the grunting, trust me, I have too. Alright. So one of the unique features to the PC version of this game, and what I just did there, is I can repeatedly guard the same attack. And guarding the same attack, that if the attack knocks me upward, every guard stores the vertical momentum that I would get from it. So if I guard a ton of times, it'll just straight launch me into the air. Mind, this game has no jump button. So I find an attack that happens to launch me vertical, and it just allows me to shoot past the collision of the building and access the loading zone to this dungeon from the back end. And this is the second to last dungeon of the normal story playthrough. The really cool thing about this game is the PC version has accessibility features that allow me to bind the guard button to multiple buttons. So I can actually just mash, what I usually mash is triangle, right on the arrow pad, and L1. So I just guard an attack like 10 times and it just shoots me over the door. And it's really nice, too, because this dungeon is kind of awful in a casual playthrough, because there's a very lengthy escort mission in this area. It's not hard, it's just slow. But because the game has not actually loaded the cutscene that prompts that in yet, I just skipped doing that entirely. There we go. Now this is the second to last dungeon in the game, and I'm supposed to be somewhere in the levels of like 45. Somewhere around level 45, basically. And I'm clearly not. But the nice thing is it has the third best sword in the game, which is the Rune Sword +9. The +9 refers to a couple of little benefits this game... A couple little bonuses that were put on the blade. Usually a little bit of extra strength and some status effects. Status effects only come into play in like 1 or 2 fights in the entire run, so I don't usually cover them. Point being, that sword is really useful. And allows me to sort of catch up to late game enemies, at least as far as damage goes. So the enemies that are in these doors here that shoot the lasers... Oh god, come on. I'm gonna make a safety save here. The enemies that are in the doors here, I actually cannot kill them. Just for story reasons, basically. I can't kill them, but I can jump over them, which is the next best thing. Alright, Tiny Tim, this is the part of the run you've been waiting for.
Oh, looking forward to this.
Alright, so we have to go visit the bee, and the reason for this is I need to trigger a boss fight that I don't finish. And this is because I cannot actually trigger the boss fight of the laboratory that I was just at. So I need this boss to cooperate, and I need to not kill it. And that went pretty well. So, good luck with the bees. Before I go anywhere, I need to... Oops. I need to equip Adol with all my strongest stuff. And this forces a boss fight, which is the boss of this area. Our good old gargoyle buddy goes by the name of Sol Galba. There's more lore to this character, but I'm not really equipped to with enough time to explain it. But yeah, the East series is very heavily built on lore and world building, so I definitely recommend checking it out. Anyway, this guy is by far the hardest fight of the run. So I need to kill the feet, and then I need to take care of the hands here. And once I do that, he's going to go down to his head, which is going to finally let me do damage to the boss. An ideal fight here would be 3 cycles. I believe the cycles are heavily damage-based. There's a little bit of a timing element to it as well. So I do a certain amount of damage, and I extend this cycle by using Adol's finisher skill there. That's bad. This laser attack is very time-consuming. By the way, every one of these dodges is critical, because this guy, or at least a guard, most of this guy's attacks can just straight one-hit kill me. Ah. Alright, I'm gonna have to do a 4-cycle fight here. Alright, I just need to dodge this. That fireball attack just straight up one-hit kills me. Okay, I just need to reset this fight then. Oh, this is really bad. This is the worst time to take a death. So the really annoying thing about guards in this game is sometimes the, Come on. The really annoying thing about guards in this game is sometimes if you do a simultaneous guard and flash, it just straight up will not, I could try this, I guess. I could try to clutch this out. Probably be faster anyways. Actually, no, it's just faster to take a death. This is pretty typical. Come on, stop. Stupid boss. So the annoying thing about simultaneous flashes that I'm trying to explain here, if this guy would stop spitting fireballs at me. Oh my god. This fight's gone to hell. There's a decent chance that you can end up accidentally getting hit even when you execute the skill perfectly. And it really sucks when that happens on this fight in particular, because every attack this guy has can just utterly decimate my health. I'm mad. Alright, this is probably going to push me over estimate. You butt. You jerk. And he's in the worst position. This fight sucks. This fight sucks so badly. Really? Fireballs. And my allies are stunned, which means that I'm not going to be able to get the hands here. This might be the worst Sol Galbatu fight I've had in a very long time. There's not really much I can do.
I was just going to say, this guy's being a bit of a bee.
Yeah. I mean, kind of just something you have to expect with this fight, but still. There were a couple points I might have been trying to get a little too cute. So that's cost me a little bit. Would you stop with the fireballs? God, I feel like I'm playing Street Fighter at the arcade here with a noob. There we go. Alrighty, and that should do it. There, finally. Okay, so that's Soul Calibur 2. So sealed within the gargoyle, as I call him, Soul Calibur 2, is the spirit of the ancient king of this region, and he fixes the mask. Which isn't even gonna matter, because we're gonna just cheese the entire final dungeon. Say hello to the bee again. Please stop. We need to not kill the bee. Save the bees. Even though it's a wasp. So, get at least 8 guards one more time. Wow. Haven't had this happen in a while. So Adol died. I know I need to wait for the heavy status effect to go away. I think my timer's off or something. Come on, buddy. This is why this fight's a jerk, because I have to wait till he does this attack in particular. There we go.
I was just thinking we hadn't seen enough B in this run, so he's making up for it now.
Yep, he's making up for it now. Alright, this is the ancient capital, and a ton of cutscenes just kind of overlap at once. But the reason for triggering the B fight here is that there's a sequence in the very first screen of this final dungeon that's not supposed to trigger until after I fight what is sort of meant to be the final boss. It's not actually the final boss, but there's like this escape sequence that I have to go through in the final dungeon, and this fight's a part of it. So I just skip straight past what is meant to be the final boss. So yeah, the entire final dungeon is just completely and utterly skipped in this category. I haven't really routed out any sort of glitchless category to circumvent this, but I always thought it was funny. Anyways, the bad guy is defeated in a parallel universe, apparently. But his spirit is so intrinsically tied to the power within the mask that the only way to actually defeat him is to get rid of the mask, which we're gonna just go with the most brute force option and, rip off Lord of the Rings and just chuck the mask into a volcano. Anyways, the Phantom of the main villain of the game decides that he wants to stop me, so this is the true final fight, which is a one-on-one fight against, his name is Phantom Garuda. Now, I mentioned earlier that the dungeon that I did a bit ago has an escort mission in it. Well, the game needs to place the escort somewhere, so they put it in the final fight instead, so she's just kind of there. The nice thing is she can heal me if my health gets too low, so this fight's basically free. But I can die here. There's one thing you can do that will kill me. There we go. If he hits me with that attack, I'm dead. He also loves to just pretend he can ninja dodge me, even though he really can't. Alright. Should just about get the kill and we can get a sub 1 hour time. Would you stop it, buddy? There we go. And that's the final boss. Alrighty, so time's coming up shortly. Come on. There we go. Alrighty, so view the ending cutscene. And time. Wow, that run stinked. But that was fun. That was fun. I hope you guys enjoyed. Sol Galba 2 notwithstanding, that was most of the run went pretty alright. So I'll take 90% of the run going alright over none of it. So hope you guys enjoyed. Can I get a moment to do you have a moment to just show something off before we call it a marathon?
I believe so. I don't think anybody will have a problem with that.
Alright. This takes literally a minute.
Must say a big well done, Ghost. Thank you very much indeed for showing that off. It's an amazing run, and I hope everybody enjoyed it.
Thank you. Alrighty, so I just loaded up the file that I beat the game with. Now, when you beat the game once, you unlock the boss rush feature. So I'm gonna go to the final boss here. And I need him to do a specific attack here. Too slow. Come on. Come on. Do it. Do the thing. Do the thing. He has the nerve to call me a baka after that run. Come on, man. Alrighty. Come on, buddy. Do the thing. Do the thing. There we go. So the fun thing about this fight is you can also escape this fight like any other fight, and the trigger for the area around it is still there even in boss rush mode. So I go to the cutscene viewer, and then I go back into the fight, and now the game thinks it's a story mode run. And he's dead. So this is a category we refer to as New Game Plus. You just go into the boss rush mode, exit the fight, and then re-enter the fight, and it beats the game. If you do this on Nightmare, by the way, this is treated as if you have beaten Nightmare successfully. So if you want to cheese that achievement, that's a way you can do that. Anyways, thanks all for watching. Hope you enjoyed. It should still be time to donate, so if you want to donate, it's a good cause. I appreciate it. Anyways, I'll send it back to the hosts, and we can wrap this up. Thank you for watching.
Have you got any last words, Ghost? Anything you'd like to shout out?
Not really. I mean, shout outs to the East community in general. There's a ton of people I could shout out for this game. Particularly Ravi-san. Huge shout outs to Ravi-san. Very, very helpful person with routing this game. Doesn't speak much English, so we've had to kind of communicate through my very, very little ability of Japanese and videos, but we've been able to get this route together in a very broken and, I feel, personally enjoyable way. This is one of my favorite games to run. And then also is the Western community that's developed for the game since the PC release came out, such as TuxDev, Zelnu, Primerwix. They've come up with a lot of strats. I could name a ton of people, but just shoutouts to the East community in general. Shoutouts to BSG for letting me close this off with a game that I really enjoy. And yeah, shoutouts to you guys for watching.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. That was ghostkumo with the amazing East Memories of Celceta. Do not go anywhere, folks. We still have our afterthoughts just coming up, so please bear with us. We're going to go over a quick intermission, and we'll be right back. Thank you very much again, Ghost.
And shout out to Tim.